There is a quiet truth about life that most people discover far too late. Success is not built in a single day. Confidence is not created in a moment. Greatness is not born in an instant. It is built slowly, quietly, one small step at a time. And the people who seem unstoppable in life, the ones who grow stronger, wiser, and more successful every year, are not magical. They simply understand one powerful idea. Get better every single day. Not perfect, not extraordinary, just a little better than yesterday. Because when you improve even 1% every day, your life begins to transform in ways you cannot imagine. Think about it. One small improvement today, another tomorrow, another next week, another next month. Over time, those tiny improvements turn into massive change. Your thoughts, your actions, your mindset. Every day is a vote for the person you are becoming. And the most powerful thing about this idea is that it puts the control back in your hands. You do not need to be the smartest person. You do not need to be the most talented. You do not need to have perfect circumstances. You simply need to be willing to grow consistently. Let me tell you something important. The people who win in life are rarely the people who start the strongest. They are the people who refuse to stop improving. They are the ones who wake up every morning and ask themselves a simple question. How can I be just a little better today? Not perfect, just better. Maybe they read 10 pages of a book. Maybe they practice a skill. Maybe they choose discipline instead of distraction. Maybe they push through discomfort when others quit. These small actions may not look impressive in the moment, but over time, they create extraordinary lives. Because success loves consistency, growth loves patience, and greatness is built in the quiet moments when no one is watching. Most people underestimate the power of small progress. They believe that if something is not dramatic, it must not be important. But that belief is what keeps them stuck. Because real transformation is rarely dramatic. It is gradual. It happens in tiny, invisible steps, like a tree growing in a forest. You do not see it growing each day, but give it enough time, and it becomes something powerful. Your life works the same way. Every good habit is a seed. Every discipline is a seed. Every effort to improve is a seed. And if you plant those seeds daily, eventually they grow into something extraordinary. But here is where most people struggle. They want results immediately because the biggest mistake people make is quitting too early. They improve for a few days, maybe a few weeks. Then when they do not see massive results, they stop. And the cycle begins again. Start, stop, start again, stop again. But the people who transform their lives break that cycle. They stop chasing motivation and they start building discipline. They stop waiting for inspiration and they start taking action. They stop worrying about perfection and they start focusing on progress. Because progress, no matter how small, changes everything. Imagine improving your mindset every day, learning something new every day, strengthening your discipline every day, building better habits every day. Within a year, you would not recognize the person you used to be. That is the power of daily growth. It compounds, just like money in an investment account. At first, the change seems small, almost invisible, but over time, the growth multiplies, and eventually, the results become undeniable. Confidence grows, opportunities appear, skills sharpen, your mindset evolves, and suddenly people start asking you a strange question. How did you become so successful? But they never saw the real answer. They never saw the quiet mornings when you chose discipline. They never saw the nights when you kept learning while others were distracted. They never saw the moments when you kept improving, even when it felt difficult. Because greatness is usually invisible while it is being built, but visible once it arrives. And the beautiful part about this journey is that anyone can begin. You do not need permission. You do not need a perfect plan. You simply need a decision. Not just when you feel motivated, but even when it feels uncomfortable, even when progress feels slow, even when no one notices. Because those are the moments that build real strength. The truth is, your future self is watching you right now. The person you will become in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, is shaped by what you do today. Every decision is a vote. Every action is a step. Every day is an opportunity. So the question is not whether change is possible. The question is whether you are willing to commit to the process. Are you willing to improve even when it feels small? Are you willing to stay consistent even when results are invisible? Are you willing to trust the power of daily growth? Because if you are, your life can transform in ways you never imagined. not overnight, but inevitably. And it all begins with a simple commitment. Just get better today, not tomorrow. Today, one action, one improvement, one step forward. Then tomorrow, do it again. And the next day, do it again. Day after day, week after week, year after year, until one day, you wake up and realize something incredible. You are no longer chasing a better life. You have become the person capable of creating it. There is something powerful that happens the moment a person decides to improve their life. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. In that moment, something shifts inside the mind. Because for the first time, the person stops seeing themselves as a victim of circumstances and begins seeing themselves as the architect of their future. And that shift changes everything. The truth is, every person you admire once stood exactly where you stand now. Uncertain, doubtful, wondering if they were capable of becoming more. But the difference between those who grow, because improvement is not an event. It is a lifestyle, a mindset, a quiet commitment you make to yourself every single day. When most people wake up in the morning, their first thought is survival. What do I have to do today? What problems do I need to deal with? How do I get through the day? But the people who grow every year ask a different question. How can I become better today? And that single question begins to transform how they see the world. Suddenly, challenges are not obstacles. They are opportunities. Failure is not embarrassment. It is feedback. Discomfort is not something to avoid. It is a signal that growth is happening. Because growth almost always lives on the other side of discomfort. Think about learning any new skill. The first time you try it, you feel awkward, uncertain, maybe even embarrassed. But if you keep practicing, something amazing happens. Your brain adapts. Your confidence grows. Your ability improves. What once felt impossible becomes natural. This is called progress. And progress is one of the most powerful motivators a human being can experience. But here is where most people get trapped. They only want progress when it feels easy. They only want improvement when it is comfortable. But real improvement rarely feels comfortable at first. It feels slow. It feels challenging. Sometimes it even feels frustrating. But that is not a sign you are failing. That is a sign you are growing. Because the truth is, comfort zones are beautiful places. But nothing grows there. Everything that improves your life exists just outside that zone. Confidence, strength, skill, wisdom, discipline. All of these qualities are built by stepping slightly beyond what feels comfortable again and again. And the beautiful part is, you do not have to leap far outside your comfort zone. Just take one small step, then another, then another. Over time, those steps become your new normal. What once felt difficult becomes easy. What once felt scary becomes familiar. And slowly, the person you are begins to evolve. That is the magic of daily improvement. You do not need to reinvent yourself overnight. You simply need to move forward consistently. Think of your life like a direction. Every action you take is a step. Every habit you build is a road. Every decision moves you somewhere. If you improve your thinking, your direction improves. If you improve your habits, your direction improves. If you improve your discipline, your direction improves. And when your direction improves, your life improves. The danger is not making mistakes. The danger is standing still. Because time never stops moving. Days pass. Weeks pass. Years pass. And if a person is not intentionally improving, they slowly drift. Drift into routines. Drift into distractions. Drift into comfortable habits that lead nowhere. But the people who build extraordinary lives interrupt that drift. They pause and ask themselves powerful questions. What am I learning? What am I improving? What habits am I building? What kind of person am I becoming? These questions create awareness. And awareness creates change. Because once a person becomes aware of their potential, it becomes impossible to ignore it. Deep inside, every person knows they are capable of more. More growth, more discipline, more courage, more impact. But potential means nothing without action. And action becomes powerful only when it becomes consistent. That is why the most successful Instead of asking themselves every day whether they feel like improving, they simply follow the habit. Wake up, learn, practice, work, improve, repeat. Over time, these simple patterns become unstoppable forces because habits shape identity. If you read every day, you become a learner. If you exercise every day, you become disciplined. If you practice your craft every day, you become skilled. Your identity becomes the result of your repeated actions. And once identity changes, everything changes. Because people naturally act in ways that match who they believe they are. If someone believes they are lazy, they behave lazily. If someone believes they are capable, they act with confidence. So one of the most powerful ways to improve your life is to change the story you tell yourself. Instead of saying, "I'm not disciplined," start saying, "I am becoming more disciplined every day." Instead of saying, "I'm not confident," say, "I am building confidence through action." These small shifts in language reshape the mind because the brain listens to the words you repeat, and eventually, it begins to believe them. But belief alone is not enough. Belief must be supported by action. Tiny actions, daily actions, actions so small that they feel almost impossible to fail. Read 5 pages. Write one idea. Practice 10 minutes. Exercise 15 minutes. Improve one habit. These actions may seem small, but small actions repeated consistently create powerful results. Think of water dripping on a stone. One drop seems insignificant, but thousands of drops, over time, can carve through solid rock. Consistency has that same power. It shapes the mind. It builds skill. It transforms identity. And eventually, it changes destiny. The secret is patience. Because improvement compounds slowly at first, like a seed underground. For weeks, nothing appears. No visible growth. No visible change. But beneath the surface, roots are forming. Strength is building. Foundations are growing. And then one day, the plant finally breaks through the soil. From that moment forward, growth becomes visible. Your life works the same way. Many of your improvements will be invisible at first. Your discipline grows quietly. Your mindset strengthens quietly. Your knowledge expands quietly. But eventually, the results appear. And when they do, they surprise everyone. Because people see the outcome, but not the process. They see the confidence, but not the years of growth. They see the success, but not the daily effort. And that is why daily improvement is so powerful. It builds your future silently, one day at a time. One action at a time. One decision at a time. So if you ever feel like your progress is slow, remember this. Slow progress is still progress. And progress, no matter how small, moves your life forward. The key is to never stop. Keep improving. Keep learning. Keep building. Keep moving. Because every single day you choose to improve, you become stronger than yesterday. And that strength compounds. Until one day, the life you once imagined becomes the life you are living. There is a hidden pattern behind every successful life. At first glance, it may look like talent. It may look like luck. It may even look like destiny. But when you look closer, something very different appears. Habits. Simple, repeated habits that quietly shape the direction of a person's life. The truth is, your future is not built by the goals you set once. It is built by the habits you practice every single day. Because goals show you where you want to go, but habits determine whether you ever get there. Think about the people who seem to improve every year. They read more. They learn faster. They stay disciplined. They continue growing even when life becomes difficult. This is not an accident. It is the result of systems, daily routines that make improvement almost automatic. And the beautiful thing about habits is that they do not require constant motivation. Motivation fades. Feelings change. Energy rises and falls. But habits remain. Once something becomes a habit, it becomes part of who you are. You no longer argue with yourself about whether to do it. You simply do it. That is why the most powerful decision you can make is not setting bigger goals. It is building better habits. Because when habits improve, life improves. Imagine someone who decides to read 10 pages every day. 10 pages does not seem dramatic. It does not feel life-changing. But over 1 year, that person reads thousands of pages. They gain ideas, perspective, knowledge, wisdom. Their thinking expands. Their conversations improve. Their confidence grows. And slowly, they begin to see the world differently. Now imagine someone who decides to move their body every day. Not extreme workouts, not impossible routines, just consistent movement. Walking, stretching, training, day after day. Over time, their strength increases. Their energy rises. Their posture improves. Their mindset sharpens. Because the body and mind are deeply connected. When the body becomes stronger, the mind follows. Then imagine someone who commits to learning something new every day. A skill, an idea, a lesson, a strategy. Over time, they become more valuable, more capable, more adaptable. And in a world that is constantly changing, the ability to learn quickly becomes one of the greatest advantages a person can have. But perhaps the most powerful habit of all is reflection. Taking a few moments each day to ask simple questions. What did I learn today? What did I do well today? What could I improve tomorrow? These questions turn every day into a classroom, every experience into a lesson, every mistake into a teacher. And slowly, the person becomes wiser. Not because life is easier, but because they learn from it. The problem is that many people believe habits must be extreme to matter. They believe improvement requires massive effort, huge change, perfect discipline. But that belief often stops them before they begin, because the mind becomes overwhelmed. The truth is much simpler. Small habits are the most powerful habits, because small habits are easy to repeat, and repetition is what creates transformation. The goal is not intensity. The goal is consistency. A person who practices a skill for 20 minutes every day will eventually outperform someone who practices for 5 hours once a month. A person who reads a little every day will eventually know more than someone who reads only when they feel inspired. A person who improves slowly but consistently will always surpass someone who waits for the perfect moment, because consistency beats intensity every time. Another powerful habit that shapes successful lives is focus. In today's world, attention has become one of the most valuable resources on earth, but it is also one of the most distracted. Notifications, social media, endless information, constant noise, all competing for your attention. And when attention becomes scattered, progress slows down, because deep improvement requires deep focus. The ability to concentrate on something meaningful without constant distraction. When a person learns to focus deeply, even for short periods of time, something remarkable happens. Learning becomes faster, work becomes sharper, creativity increases, ideas become clearer, and tasks that once seemed difficult become manageable. Focus turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. But focus is not just about removing distractions. It is about choosing priorities. Because every day presents you with choices. You can spend hours consuming information or creating something meaningful. You can spend time complaining about problems or solving them. You can spend energy worrying about things you cannot control or improving the things you can. Your daily choices shape your identity, and identity shapes destiny. That is why people who improve consistently become extremely protective of their time. They understand something powerful. Time is the most valuable resource a human being possesses. Money can be earned again. Opportunities can return. But time, once gone, never comes back. Every day you wake up with 24 hours. And how you use those hours determines the direction of your life. Some people spend their hours escaping. Others spend them building. Some spend them distracted. Others spend them learning. Some spend them waiting. Others spend them growing. And over months and years, the difference becomes enormous. The person who grows daily becomes stronger, wiser, and more capable. The person who drifts daily becomes stuck in the same place. The gap widens, not because one person is more talented, but because one person used their time intentionally. That is why improvement does not require perfection. It requires awareness. Awareness of how you spend your time. Awareness of replace excuses with action. Replace hesitation with courage, little by little, step by step. And that is the secret behind every powerful habit. Start small. Stay consistent. Trust the process. Because when you repeat positive habits long enough, something incredible happens. They stop feeling like effort. They start feeling like identity. You no longer force yourself to grow. Growth becomes natural. You become the type of person who improves, the type of person who learns, the type of person who moves forward, even when life becomes challenging. And when that happens, success is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you naturally attract. Because the person you are becoming is capable of creating it. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize something important. Motivation is unreliable. Some days you wake up feeling inspired, focused, ready to conquer the world. But other days feel different. Energy is low. Focus disappears. Doubt creeps in quietly. And suddenly the things you promised yourself you would do feel difficult. This is where most people stop. Not because they are incapable, but because they depended on motivation. And motivation is a feeling. Feelings change. Feelings fade. But discipline is different. Discipline is a decision. It is the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you do not feel like doing it. And the truth is, discipline is the quiet force behind every extraordinary life. Athletes rely on it. Leaders rely on moments when comfort calls your name. Moments when quitting seems easier than continuing. In those moments, discipline becomes your greatest ally. Because discipline reminds you of who you want to become. It reminds you that your future matters more than temporary comfort. It reminds you that the effort you make today builds the life you will live tomorrow. And slowly, as discipline becomes stronger, something interesting begins to happen. Your mind stops negotiating with excuses. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like doing this?" you begin asking, "Is this the person I want to become?" And that question changes everything. Because identity is powerful. If someone believes they are the type of person who finishes what they start, they keep going. If someone believes they are disciplined, they act with discipline. If someone believes they are improving every day, they take actions that support that belief. Your identity becomes a compass. It guides your choices, your habits, your decisions. And when your identity aligns with growth, improvement becomes inevitable. But discipline does not appear overnight. Like any skill, it must be trained, strengthened, developed slowly through repetition. The first time you push yourself to do something difficult, it feels uncomfortable. The second time, still uncomfortable, but slightly easier. The third time, your resistance weakens. And eventually, the action becomes normal. This is how discipline grows. Not through dramatic change, but through small victories repeated daily. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, discipline grows. Every time you choose effort over comfort, discipline grows. Every time you finish something you started, discipline grows. These moments may seem small, but they build something powerful inside you. Self-trust, the belief that you can rely on yourself. And self-trust is one of the most valuable forms of confidence a person can possess. Because the second time, still uncomfortable, but slightly easier. The third time, your resistance weakens. And eventually, the action becomes normal. This is how discipline grows. Not through dramatic change, but through small victories repeated daily. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, discipline grows. Every time you choose effort over comfort, discipline grows. Every time you finish something you started, discipline grows. These moments may seem small, but they build something powerful inside you. Self-trust, the belief that you can rely on yourself. And self-trust is one of the most valuable forms of confidence a person can possess. Because when you trust yourself, fear loses its power. Doubt loses its voice. Excuses lose their control. You know that even when things become difficult, you will continue. And once a person develops that kind of trust in themselves, their potential becomes limitless. But there is another important truth about discipline that most people misunderstand. Discipline is not punishment. It is freedom. At first, that idea may seem strange, because discipline requires effort, commitment, structure. But look closely at the lives of people who lack discipline. They struggle with time. They struggle with habits. They struggle with consistency. Their goals remain distant because their actions change daily. But disciplined people experience something different. They build routines. They control their time. They direct their energy toward meaningful goals. And as a result, their lives move forward. That is real freedom. the freedom to shape your future intentionally, the freedom to improve your circumstances, the freedom to grow into the person you are capable of becoming. Discipline gives you that power. It turns potential into progress, dreams into action, ideas into reality. And over time, it transforms ordinary people into extraordinary individuals. Because when discipline and time, the second time, still uncomfortable, but slightly easier. The third time, your resistance weakens. And eventually, the action becomes normal. This is how discipline grows. Not through dramatic change, but through small victories repeated daily. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, discipline grows. Every time you choose effort over comfort, discipline grows. Every time you finish something you started, discipline grows. These moments may seem small, but they build something powerful inside you. Self-trust, the belief that you can rely on yourself. And self-trust is one of the most valuable forms of confidence a person can possess. Because when you trust yourself, fear loses its power. Doubt loses its voice. Excuses lose their control. You know that even when things become difficult, you will continue. And once a person develops that kind of trust in themselves, their potential becomes limitless. But there is another important truth about discipline that most people misunderstand. Discipline is not punishment. It is freedom. At first, that idea may seem strange, because discipline requires effort, commitment, structure. But look closely at the lives of people who lack discipline. They struggle with time. They struggle with habits. They struggle with consistency. Their goals remain distant because their actions change daily. But disciplined people experience something different. They build routines. They control their time. They direct their energy toward meaningful goals. And as a result, their lives move forward. That is real freedom. The freedom to shape your future intentionally. The freedom to improve your circumstances. The freedom to grow into the person you are capable of becoming. Discipline gives you that power. It turns potential into progress, dreams into action, ideas into reality. And over time, it transforms ordinary people into extraordinary individuals. Because when discipline and time combine, incredible things happen. Skills sharpen. Do not chase perfection. Commit to progress. And do not underestimate the power of small actions repeated consistently. Because those actions, repeated over months and years, have the power to completely transform your life. Before you go, remember this. Your life does not change in one dramatic moment. It changes in the quiet decisions you make every single day. Every time you choose growth over comfort. Every time you choose discipline over excuses. Every time you take one small step forward. You are becoming someone stronger, wiser, and more capable than you were yesterday. So wherever you are right now in your journey, don't wait for the perfect time. Start today, improve a little today, and tomorrow, do it again. Because one day, those small improvements will turn into a life you once only imagined. If this message helped you, stay connected for more powerful ideas designed to help you grow, think stronger, and live better every single day. This is the motivational audiobook spot, where powerful minds grow every day.